Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, you know what situation we are in right now, but we believe that you are always in control. We entrust everything to you, Lord. We pray for our leaders and for our government. Give them wisdom as they make decisions for the whole country. We pray for all the healthcare workers who always put themselves in risk to save and cure the patients. Protect them, Lord, from any sickness. Give them strength to endure daily hardships and capacity to cure people. We also pray for the police officers, the military, and all the frontliners. Protect them, Lord, and give them strength and patience. And lastly, we pray for the entire nation. We pray for provision for our daily needs, especially for the poor. We pray for healing, protection, and deliverance. We pray for all the businesses to survive this crisis. We pray for recovery and restoration. We rest in your loving embrace because you are the God of mercy, of healing, and of provision. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Life is a gift, precious to you and me, given freely from up above. The wellness of life is what we want for us, is what we want to give to those in need. Quality care for all those in need. We are very operated blessers. We are friends and we are partners. Let us join our hands and offer our service for the health of our nation. This is our responsibility. This is our call. Are we ORNAPs? Yes, we are. Are we friends? Yes, we are. Are we partners? Yes, we are. So let us join our hands and offer our service for the health of our nation. This is our responsibility. This is our call. our service for the health of our nation. This is our responsibility. This is our call.
Okay, so good morning once again, and welcome to our first ever webinar entitled Digital Media Literacy, a core skill of healthcare professionals in response to the current pandemic. It is so good to see all of you today, and we are happy that you guys have taken your time off to be with us. And also, even though you are all on duty, we are still here, and we really appreciate it that you have spent so much effort to be with us today. And rest assured, there will be more of this in the future. This is all because of all of you. So to begin this program, I am very pleased to introduce our ORNAP Iloilo Chapter President as he gives his opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Jorwin Badana.
Hello guys, guests, speaker, evaluators, ORNAP Iloilo Chapter Officer and Advisors, members and participants, a pleasant morning. In this time of crisis, where health workers have so much of their plate working on the front line, face-to-face seminars are not possible. Our organization felt that despite this pandemic, we must not cease in rendering support to our members through continuing education programs to our fellow perioperative nurses. We will be able to equip them with additional knowledge to keep up in providing quality perioperative patient care. Thus, from us to organize the chapter first webinar, through the benevolent heart and igniting passion for teaching of Sir Ray Gapus, this webinar is made feasible. We are extremely grateful for your unceasing help and support to our colleagues, sir. We are also very thankful for the professional help and support of Sir Ray Gapus' team, most especially to Sir Winston Sadul and Ma'am Michelle Mendoza. We may be new with this particular scheme, but you have effectively guided us to realize this initiative. I would also like to thank our dear ORNAP national officers for helping us obtain CPD units for this webinar. To our participants, thank you for investing your time on this learning endeavor. I have a quote here from Robin Sharma, which says, "The swiftest way to triple your success is to double your investment on personal development." I am hoping that through this webinar, we may be able to impart something that will aid in your personal and professional growth and somehow contribute to your success. I will just make this welcome remark short. So without much further ado, I would like to welcome you all to our first ever webinar entitled Digital Media Literacy, a core skill of health professionals and response to current pandemic. Thank you and have a prolific morning, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Badana, for that very warm welcome. As you can see, what you're facing right now, it seems to be that it is quite hard for us to gather in large groups, to hold seminars like we had before. So this is now the new normal that we will have to adapt to. As of the meantime, I don't know, maybe until next year or years from now still, but at least we were able to cope up with what's happening to the world right now. And as nurses, we all know that with us being together, helping each other hand in hand, we can fight this pandemic and also have a better country and even world in the near future. Before I continue, I would like to recognize our past ORNAP President, Mr. Frankie Mazonas. Thank you for being with us today, sir. Good morning. and also the other ORNAP members as well as the non-ORNAP members. Thank you so much for being with us today. And again, I would like to encourage the other participants to please turn on your webcams or your videos so that we could see all of you, as this is also part of their attendance for today. Don't worry, we are all here today. It's okay if you're at home, if you're at work, as long as you just mute your microphone so as not to contribute to unnecessary noises. Okay, so to start again, to give our objectives for today, may I please call on Ms. Feby Andy Butake, ORNAP Secretary and Webinar Coordinator.
So good morning again, everyone. So the following are the objectives of this webinar that we wish you to accomplish at the end of this session. First, understand the elements that make the digital media literacy a core skill of healthcare professionals in response to the present pandemic. Second, identify at least 3 of the 7 criteria of the quality digital resource materials. And lastly, understand at least 1 strategy for information verification using appropriate and available technology. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Libatake, for our objectives of today. Now let us process the reading of Declaration of Fair Use and Declaration of No Conflict of Interest. Mr. Von Serpino, our ORNAP member, is here to gladly fill us up with regards to the details.
For the Declaration of Fair Use, the articles and images in this presentation are used by the speaker as examples for comments and teaching purposes. Their use are therefore aligned with the provisions of the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, which provides that allowance is made for fair use for purpose as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. The Perioperative Registered Nurses Association of the Philippines, as the organizing body, is not directly involved in the preparation of the content and visual aids of the speaker. For the Declaration of No Conflict of Interest, I, Dr. Ray A. Gapus, as the author and speaker of this presentation, hereby certify that, to the best of my knowledge, no financial support or benefits have been received by me, by any member of my immediate family, or any individual or entity with whom or with which I have a significant relationship from any commercial source which is related directly or indirectly to this work. Moreover, neither I nor any member of my immediate family nor any individual or entity with whom or with which I have a significant relationship has a financial interest in entities related to the subject matter discussed, including those that sells a product relating to the subject matter of the presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Von Serpino. Now, for our mechanics of our PDF distribution, access to the recorded seminar version and guidelines to our raffle at the end of this webinar. Yes, you guys heard it right. We will have a raffle draw at the end of this talk. So please do stay tuned and participate until the end for more chances of winning. Again, may I please acknowledge everyone to please turn on your webcams so that you guys can see you. I can see still other people who haven't turned on their webcams. Miss Kay, Miss Jennifer, Sir Dustin, hello, Sir Jose Marie. Please do turn them on so that we guys can see you, and also we can take your attendance for today. Okay, so stay tuned. We have a raffle draw at the end. And now, may I please welcome Mr. Feb Mark Lapastora, ORNAP PRO, to explain the guidelines and mechanics for today's webinar.
Sorry for the technical problem. Hi guys again. Thank you for being a part of our first ever webinar. And because of that, we got surprises in store for all of you. First, we will be giving out access and a copy of the content of this webinar through your emails. Yes, we will be sending out copy of this webinar through your emails. So provided, guys, again, provided, make sure that you will be filling out our evaluation forms right after this webinar. The link for our evaluation form can be found in the email we sent you yesterday, together with the access code for today's event. Next, right after the event, we will have a raffle draw. Yes, guys, you heard it right. We will be choosing 5 winners for today's event. We will choose randomly, and one of the winners is the early bird to register online. So all these perks are provided only for you. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and learn for the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. La Pastora, for the mechanics. So again, stay tuned until the end of the webinar for more prizes in the end. But still, as what we have come here today is for the purpose of this talk. So next on the agenda, what we all have been waiting for, we have here Ms. Lubutake back on board to finally introduce our renowned speaker.
Good morning again, everyone. So it is my great honor and privilege to introduce to you today our speaker. Dr. Ray A. Gapus, or Mentor Ray, as he wants to be called, is an international author and a multi-awarded digital entrepreneur. He graduated cum laude from the University of Santo Tomas College of Nursing for his bachelor's degree and is a board top-notcher in the Philippine Nurse Licensure Examination, where he obtained a rating of 89.20%. He pursued his master's degree in nursing in the same institution and graduated summa cum laude. He pursued a post-baccalaureate certificate and master's degree in education in one of the top universities in the United States, the Pennsylvania State University, and finished both courses with a GPA of 4.0. He is a recipient of 2 doctorate degrees, honoris causa, from 2 state universities in the Philippines, the Pangasinan State University and the Ramon Magsaysay Technology University. So guys, let us all welcome our speaker for the first webinar of the Peri-Operative Registered Nurses Association of the Philippines, ORNAP Incorporated, Iloilo Chapter, the ever-energetic, multi-awarded, and very dear to the hearts of the Filipino nurses, Mr. Ricardo Ray Gapus Jr., RN, MAN, MED, PCT, DSC, DMGT.
A pleasant and healthy morning, colleagues. I thought the letters after my name would all the way go to XYZ. But thank you very much for the very kind introduction, colleagues. And thank you very much for joining me this morning. Now, this is a sort of a first for ORNAP, and congratulations, ORNAP Iloilo, for taking the lead in trying to come up with continuing education programs such as this during this very challenging time. It is indeed a great honor for me to be part of this milestone. Once again, congratulations to all of you and to all of us. So let's give each other a warm round of applause because this is quite a feat. So congratulations, everyone. So I would like to actually share with you something that is very dear and close to my heart. It is about trying to be of help by giving the right information. So let me begin by asking you this question. At any point in time during this pandemic, have you ever received a message either through social or mainstream media that made you feel the need to share the information to others? It's pushing you to press that share button in either your iPhone, your iPad, your laptops, or your desktop, and you feel the need that I have to share this to my family members. I have to share this to my colleagues. I have to share this to my friends. Have you ever had that kind of experience? Now, before we answer that question, let me share with you some screen grabs of a conversation. As they say, Filipinos love to talk about something na may pagka-chismisan dating. So let's take a peep into a conversation between a mother and a daughter who is a healthcare professional. So the mother began with the conversation by saying, "Anak," meaning my child, "how are you na? I'm so worried after I learned you got trapped yan in the medical mission. Any news, when will you fly back here?" Then the daughter replied, "Ma, thank you sa message. Still waiting for the flight. I've been stuck here for more than 2 months now. Hi, I'm beginning to question, why do I have to suffer in isolation when all I wanted was to obey you and Papa's wish to have a medical doctor in the family who is concerned with the underprivileged?" Then the mother replied, "Hold on, anak. Let's pray for your safety there." And then the daughter answered, "I am praying, Ma, but really, I don't know how to tell you this." So ano kaya yung sasabihin niya sa mother niya? And then the mother said, "What, anak?" And then the daughter answered, "I was trying to hide this from you, Ma, because I don't want you to worry." And then the mother again, inquisitively, is asking the daughter, "Ano nga, anak? Remember when you got angry upon my arrival here in Africa for a mission because I didn't call you agad? Kasi po, I got abducted and raped. And now, hindi ko po kaya itago kasi I already missed 2 monthly periods. And worse, I was exposed to COVID during the mission." "Did you report to the police? I will call the embassy," the mother replied. And then the daughter said, "Ma, please don't. Baka po ma-headline. I don't want my teammates to know that I am possibly pregnant now. All I want is to go home." And then the mother said, "Anak, naiiyak ako." He said, "I wanted to cry. Just hold on tight. God will guide us. All this shall pass." And so the daughter said, "Sana po, Ma, sana po. My worry is that what will Papa say when he will see me pregnant? I don't want to disappoint him, Ma." And so the mother said again to comfort the daughter, "Anak, I'll help you explain. Don't worry, stay safe. And update me once a flight is available na." And so the daughter said, "Ma, thank you. And Ma, I hope you forgive me for this." And then the mother said, "It's not your fault, anak. You are forgiven and I love you." "Thank you, Ma," the daughter replied. "And Ma, I still have I have to tell you sana one more thing." What could it be? Ano kaya? Kaya nakakadurog ng puso yung kwento. "Yes, anak." Then the daughter said, "When I said I suspect that I am pregnant after a rape, one of those I told you isn't true. Eh." And then the mother said, "Ha, you are not pregnant?" And then the daughter said, "No, Ma, I am pregnant but not raped. I actually eloped with my college boyfriend 2 months back. We flew in their province. I did not join a mission in Africa. I don't have COVID. I wasn't raped, but I am pregnant." Okay, what would you think would be the reaction of the mother? And so the mother just said, "Thank God, anak, thank God. Now just come home alive, please." And then the daughter said, "Yes, Ma, yes." Now, what can we say about this situation? There is, to a certain extent, is it a misinformation or a disinformation? Those two things are similar, but not the same. Okay, so there's a difference between misinformation and disinformation, which we're going to clarify in a while. So let's analyze and reflect on that conversation. The mother was initially disinformed through the use of a very emotionally charged situation that was designed to shield the daughter and to force acceptance of her situation by the mother. So this is actually with premeditation on the part of the daughter. So she crafted a situation that the mother will not have any choice but at the end of the conversation would just agree to what happened to her and accept it unconditionally. And what a way to end a conversation with the mother. Okay, so let's move on. So that is now happening worldwide. That simple conversation between a mother and the daughter, to a certain extent, it has elements of fake news. So the World Health Organization in February announced that the new coronavirus pandemic was accompanied by an infodemic of misinformation. And this is the present world scenario. And what is really important for us to take note of is that false rumors on coronavirus could cost lives, according to researchers. Why? Because there are studies that found that people who believe online scare stories are more likely to ignore health advice. So which means they become more at risk. And that would actually add on to the risk that we carry as healthcare professionals. So what is important is we'll have to learn how to decipher facts from fiction. Okay, so let's put that situation into our scenario, the operating room scenario. Remember this FB viral post about baby Kyle, okay? And it claimed that baby Kyle had open heart surgery. And at that point in time when this was published in May, it claimed actually that baby Kyle is diagnosed with COVID. But according to a fact-checking organization, Verifiles Fact Check, the viral photo of baby Kyle, who is supposed to be diagnosed with COVID-19, is actually not true. Why? Okay. Because the malicious post made use of a photo of a baby who had chest surgery and falsely claimed that he was diagnosed with the coronavirus. The photo was actually taken almost a decade back in 2012, okay? And it involved not a Filipino baby, but a baby born in New Zealand. The only thing that was true in that story was that the baby actually underwent open heart surgery. And at this point, he actually survived. He's now 7 years old. So what specific criterion would you actually identify with this kind of story? Actually, you have a red flag. There is something very emotionally charged about it. And if you are an individual who is not that keen about identifying fake news, what happens is that you will have an idea that, oh my God, I don't want to go to the OR right now because, okay, there's a baby who got COVID, okay, when the baby had the surgery in the OR. So what does that tell us? It could tell us that we are unable to maintain the sterility of the environment, and that is not a good reflection of the image of the operating room nurses and healthcare workers. And so since this COVID pandemic is affecting all of us across all age groups, across all races, across all social strata, what is important right now is that we don't add to the distribution of news that are not true and factual, okay? So let's try to differentiate misinformation from disinformation. In both instances, misinformation and disinformation would actually have false information that is communicated. So how would you know that you are misinforming a person? When you don't have a deliberate malice. What we sometimes do is that, especially when we receive the information from our relatives without verifying the information, we just press on the share button and there it goes. This information, on the other hand, okay, is false information that is communicated with the intent to deceive. What does that tell us? The initial conversation between the mother and the daughter, remember that thing that we had a while back, is actually a form of disinformation. When you are disinformed, your mind is being manipulated. Your mind is being conditioned to believe something so that eventually when a call to action is given to you, you would comply. And that is very dangerous for us as healthcare professionals, because if we just comply with sharing a lot of information, eventually it would be difficult for us to exercise prudence because we got used to just mechanically pressing on the share button on our gadgets. Okay, now one of the reasons for this is that in the Philippines, medical pluralism may contribute to misinformation and disinformation. Now, what do we mean by medical pluralism? It simply means we combine conventional medicine with alternative or complementary medicine in the promotion of health and treatment of illnesses. So in other words, we have the mangkepweng mentality, especially like us, provincianos, okay? We go to the albularyo, we usually practice rituals, we make use of herbal remedies, sometimes with unproven benefits, sometimes just through words of mouth or recommendations of friends who experience a relief upon using these remedies. Now, this is what is making the situation worse, okay? So the general public has been overwhelmed with information related to the novel coronavirus. And as frontline healthcare workers, it is our responsibility to clear those information. Now, you would usually ask me, sir, do we have to be expert at COVID and all the elements that come with discussing it? No. We just have to learn how to verify the information, and we just have to learn how to teach our friends, family members to do the same. So what is important is we're teaching them digital media literacy through critical thinking. Okay, so at this point in time, let us remember that the social media over the last decade has played a crucial role in spreading awareness and knowledge about public health. However, it also has been misused for spreading fake news. So in other words, the use of social media is considered a double-edged sword, which simply means it could help, but it could also hurt. So prudence is actually very, very important for us. Now, this is what is alarming. In a study involving 225 pieces of misinformation, the posts that were rated as false in the 225 pieces of misinformation used as a study sample in a recent research still remain up without warning in various social media platforms, such as on Twitter. 59% of those 225 pieces of misinformation are still up. On YouTube, 27%, and on Facebook, it's 24%. You can just imagine that. Nobody is taking down the wrong pieces of information, and it is actually still being circulated in different social media platforms, okay? So this prompted Christina Targadula, who is the Associate Director of the International Fact-Checking Network, to say that COVID-19 is the biggest challenge fact-checkers have ever faced. Okay, now what's the impact of this among Filipinos? We have to put ourselves into the situation. It will have a great impact. Actually, it is having a great impact to us Filipinos. Why? Because based on the 2018 Global Digital Report, the Philippines is considered as the social media capital of the world, with Filipinos spending 3 hours and 57 minutes every day on social media. So you can just imagine how much fake news gets through our social media platforms, gets to us, and then sometimes they're becoming more and more realistic looking. So it's actually very convincing on the part of those who are sharing this kind of information. It's not difficult for them to convince people to share and share and share fake news. And that's where we should come in as healthcare professionals. So what do we need? The Partnership for the 21st Century Skills Organization has identified media literacy as one of the essential skills for students and professionals alike as they become part of the workforce in the dynamic environment of the digital world. And so the United Nations also included digital literacy in its 2030 Sustainable Development Goals to facilitate educational and professional opportunities and growth in teens and adults. Now, in a nutshell, what do this mean? Okay, digital literacy refers to one's ability to make sense of digital media. Now, what do we mean by making sense? Remember the 3 C's of making sense. We consume, so it involves consumption. We curate, okay, when you say you curate, you collect, and then we contribute, okay? So right now, the trend is from mere consumption to curation and creation. So you would see a lot of people now packaging themselves as experts. They have given their own opinions about certain things. Whether this is true or not remains to be seen. But that is now the trend. It's because a lot of us are now getting into the makers movement. What is the makers movement? Well, people have realized that if they contribute and does not just consume social media posts, eventually they make a good business out of it. So that's why more and more people are trying to create their own videos, sometimes to the detriment of the public, because most of the information that they have are not well researched or not based on science. Okay, so digital literacy, therefore, means the ability to analyze, prioritize, and act upon digital media encountered on a daily basis. How do we start? How do we begin as healthcare professionals? We begin with ourselves, then we teach our family members so that they don't worry a lot. Then we teach our friends, okay? Now, what is important also to remember is that when we think of digital literacy, you have to employ critical thinking. So, if we combine media literacy plus critical thinking, so we have critical media literacy, which refers to the ability to reflect on the pleasures derived from mass media and popular culture practices, the ability to choose selectively among popular culture icons, or the ability to produce one's own multimedia text. In a nutshell, when we exercise critical media literacy, all we have to do is to choose properly and choose whom to believe. Okay? We have that freedom. Now, there are 4 principles of digital literacy. The first one is comprehension, our ability to extract explicit and implicit ideas from media. Or in a nutshell, we ask ourselves, do we understand what is being actually shown to us through various social media platforms? Second is interdependence, how one media form connects with another. And then what would be the effects of sharing this media? So we call that social factors. And finally, which among these we collect? Okay, so when we try to find, collect, and organize information, that is what we term curation. So the 4 principles of digital literacy are comprehension, interdependence, social factors, and curation. Now, let's pose another question. What can be done? Okay. Pay particular attention to these, colleagues. There are 5 interventions for misinformation. And look, we are actually prioritized as number 1. Let's read together. Frontline health workers should be equipped with the most recent. That's the most important word there, the word most. Okay, and the next word is recent, research findings and accurate information. Why? Remember this, colleagues. The half-life of knowledge, according to researchers, have shortened to 18 months. What's the implication? Every 18 months, may nababagong protocol. Such that when we start our nursing course first year, by the time we graduate, most of those things we learned have already been either proven or disproven. Okay, so protocols could have changed. So the moment we graduate, what we already know becomes so obsolete. So that's the implication. Okay, so it's very important that we engage in continuous, lifelong, and life-wide learning opportunities like this. We have to engage in lifelong and life-wide learning opportunities like this. Number 2, mass media, community organizations, support groups, and civil society may play critical roles in disseminating accurate information. Third, all hoaxes and rumors should be removed from all online platforms. This is a problem in the country because everybody would want their opinions to be heard and read and seen. 4, online portals and personnel involved in misinformation should be brought to justice. And that's why we have the anti-cyber crime law. And number 5, common platforms should be launched to provide precautionary information in both online and offline media at a large scale. I would show you later on the platforms or some apps that are being used now here in our country, so that if you would want to go through these platforms and do your fact checking, you'll know what to do. Okay, so let us check your digital media literacy skills. Okay, so how do we do this? Okay, here's issue number 1. The Philippines is the first ASEAN country to implement a lockdown. Is it a fact or a fake? Those who say that it's a fact, give me a thumbs up sign. Okay, those who say it's a fake, okay, give me a wave. Okay, thumbs up if it's a fact, wave if it's a fake. Okay, the Philippines is the first ASEAN country to implement a lockdown. This is, let's decide, it's a fake. Now, that brings us to the next question. Who said it? Okay, Secretary Harry Roque. Now, this is actually the implication for us Filipinos because we are very person-oriented. Sometimes we look up to our government officials, okay, and sometimes, okay, when they are overly indulged and too excited to share some good news, okay, so they have a tendency, okay, to share with us some unverified information. Okay, so let's check out what Secretary Roque actually said. So he said, okay, although mababa siguro yung recovery rate natin in relation to other countries at mataas yung death rates natin, still kung hindi po tayo nag-lockout, kung hindi tayo, look at this sentence, ang pinakaunang-unang bansa dito sa ating rehiyon na nag-lockout, siguro mas marami pang namatay. Okay. So this was proven to be false. Bakit? The first country in Southeast Asia na nag-lockdown ay Vietnam. And that's the very reason they have very minimal deaths. Okay? So even China and Mongolia imposed lockdown well ahead of the Philippines. So hindi tayo ang kauna-unahang bansa dito sa ating rehiyon na nag-lockdown. Okay? Next, issue number 2. Malinis na tamod ay gamot sa COVID-19. Okay? Those who say this is a fact, give me a thumbs up sign. Those who say this is a fake, give me a wave. Okay? Mind you, colleagues, it's Dr. Anacleto Melendez who came up with this post. And this professional claims to be a medical doctor, a registered nurse, and a psychologist at that. Okay, he made actually a video which is around 3 minutes and posted it on his YouTube channel last April 28, 2020, where, take note, what did he say in the video? He advised drinking clean semen or using it as, okay, brace yourselves, hand sanitizer. Okay. Using it as hand sanitizer, okay? Although, what's his basis? Take note, class, okay? He actually came up with a basis for his post, okay? He quoted some findings from the National Medical Library, okay? Where some studies have claimed that sperm contain antibacterial properties, okay? There's no harm in swallowing sperm because it is inactivated by the gastric acids, okay? But, okay, it is not directly proven that it is considered as a form of medication for COVID-19. Okay, what could have caused this doctor to post this thing? Well, because some literatures would say spermine and spermidine, which are present in sperm, have initially been found to have an effect on Zika and chikungunya virus, which are both transmitted by mosquitoes. Now, so therefore, how do we judge this? Malinis na tamod ay gamot sa COVID-19. Sabi ni Dr. Anacleto Melendez, this is definitely a fake. Now, which leaves us to ask ourselves, sino na papaniwalaan natin? Sabi ng doktor, malinis na tamod ay gamot sa COVID-19. And then this is considered fake pala. Okay? But you would notice, this was not just posted by a Filipino. I'd show you later on, a European also came up with the same post. I don't know kung sino sa kanila ang natuto kanino. Okay? So somebody asked me actually, if ang malinis na tamod ay gamot sa COVID-19 at kailangan mo itong inumin, somebody asked me, could this potentially lead to ectopic pregnancy? And then I answered, of what? Ectopic pregnancy of the larynx? Okay, so of course that's a joke. Okay, so this is something that's very serious consideration. Okay, so this is Dr. Anacleto Melendez, and here's his post. The semen must be clean, then use sperm to fight COVID-19. So he came up with a post on YouTube and then at the same time on his Facebook page. Now, you would notice that he came up with an explanation, and this was actually called from the National Library of Medicine. But if you're gonna read through it, na sometimes di natin ginagawa because we're just too busy or too tired to read, okay? The main contention that semen helps in the treatment of COVID is actually based on the fact that the components of semen actually has an effect on your Zika and chikungunya virus. But these are entirely different from the COVID virus. So even if it has been found by several researchers that your semen may restrict the replication of chikungunya and Zika virus, it has not been found that it would do the same for the COVID-19 virus. Therefore, let's move on. So that's evaluated as a false by a fact check by Rappler. Okay, issue number 3. The intake of anti-inflammatory drug can be a factor in worsening the infection. Is this a fact or a fake? Those of you who would think that this is a fact, give me a thumbs up sign. Those of you who think that this is a fake, give me actually a wave. Okay, this is a fact. But some people twisted the fact to make it appear that a specific type of an anti-inflammatory drug, okay, could actually worsen the condition. And who said this? Look, it actually was posted by Olivier Véran, the Minister of Health of France, okay? So what did he post on his social media platform? Taking anti-inflammatory drugs, and then he gave some examples. Ibuprofen and cortisone could be an aggravating factor to the infection. If you have fever, take paracetamol. If you are already on anti-inflammatory drugs or in doubt, ask your doctor. He was actually giving a warning, and the warning is actually based on a research, okay? And he identified ibuprofen and cortisone as examples, okay? But look what happened. What added to the fire? Some netizens zeroed in on ibuprofen alone, and this could actually hurt, okay, this brand of medication, okay, ibuprofen. So everybody will be talking about, oh, don't take ibuprofen, don't take ibuprofen, and this could linger even beyond pandemic, and you could just see the fear of some people who are taking the medication, okay. It's because netizens have zeroed in on ibuprofen, where in fact it was just used as an example of the Minister of Health in France, okay? Now, what was his basis? In 2016, French researchers released a study in the Journal of Pediatrics which found an increase for empyema, meaning bacterial lung infection, in children receiving non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents for viral infection. So that triggered the warning. The intention was really good, but some netizens played up with the data, removed some, added some, highlighted something, and that was what got into the circulation of the different social media platforms, eventually creating more chaos. Okay. Now, the foundational skill, therefore, to media literacy is the ability to validate information and its source, and the ability not to take media messages at face value. And then you would begin to ask yourself, so what could be done? Okay, so this core skill requires one to think critically and to contextualize information, taking into consideration cultural factors that may affect one's interpretation of the information. So what are some cultural factors? One, Filipinos are very person-oriented, okay? And that is actually a disadvantage at this time because we just would say, sino bang nagsabi? Kung sinabi ng artista, minsan pinapaniwalaan. You know, Filipinos are usually firm believers of endorsements. So products would usually have popular endorsers, okay? And ad agencies are capitalizing on that. So sometimes for Filipinos, we just need to ask, sino nagsabi? And then if we are familiar with the person who actually released the data, and then we tend to share it, okay? Without us personally verifying it. Okay? Therefore, one important goal of digital media literacy is to ensure that participants in the digital world become more reflective about the ethical choices they make and the impact they have on others. So, how do we exercise critical media literacy? One general strategy is the methodic doubt, popularized by René Descartes, okay, who is a French philosopher and a scientist who is very popular with the phrase, I think, therefore I am, which simply means I could not doubt my existence, okay? Therefore, I exist, okay? So, what did René Descartes tell us, okay? Methodic doubt involves tentatively doubting everything in order to determine with certainty which are true. So the first instinct that you should have when you receive an information should be, oh, could this be true? Okay, doubt it at first. Don't believe it at first. Okay, and what do you do next? Always ask, is that mendacious? What do you mean by the word mendacious? Is that a false propaganda? So the first thing that you have to tell yourself or ask yourself when you receive an information is that mendacious? Okay, after that, what do we do? Here's my personal quick evaluation strategy. Since as nurses and as healthcare professionals, we're a little tired in terms of doing our day-to-day routines and tasks. So therefore, here's a quick one. What do you do? The first thing that you have to look for when you receive an information is look at the headline. Look at the top of the article. And then don't read in the middle, go through the bottom and note if there is a call to action. Now, if there is actually a picture, Okay, that's when you do your image evaluation and check if the image is factually discordant or incongruous, okay, with the article. So let's have an example. If you would notice, somebody made this post who has seen this, and he said, now this was 2001. Tell me why 19 years later, they say there's no vaccine. Share before they take it down again. So there's a call to action. So this should be a red flag, okay? Now, if you go through the picture, you evaluate the image, okay? Is this a false propaganda? Is that mendacious? Take a look at this. You have a red flag here. Why? Because it's asking you to share. And if you are irresponsible, you just share it, okay? And what's another important thing to note is that indeed there's a corona vaccine that is labeled on what is being shown on the picture. However, a dirt or a fold or something is done on the first word before the word corona. And that word actually, if you're going to decipher, is simply canine. Canine implies that this vaccine could be the one that are being administered to our pet dogs. So we know for a fact that our canine vaccines are not applicable to humans, okay? Okay, because these are two different strains of viruses, okay? So here, you have a call to action, that should be a red flag. And the second one, okay, it's evaluated by AFP, that's your Agence France Presse fact check organization. Okay, now, the fact check organization actually consider that as a false or post, okay? Because, okay, according to the fact checkers, it has been identified that COVID-19 was just identified last year, okay? Now, what about when there's a picture that is being shown, like the picture of, remember baby Kyle, the FB post on baby Kyle undergoing open heart surgery and eventually getting infected with COVID? If you were able to validate or verify the picture, okay, using an app, that would have stopped the circulation of that image on Facebook. How do we do that? Okay, the most basic, the most common, you can actually use Google image verification app, okay? And this is how you use it.
So they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but when you're searching for an image online, how do you know that every one of those words is true? We're going to show you a simple trick. You can do it with Google, and it's called a reverse image search. Okay, so there are a couple of different ways you can do this. The first one is to go to images.google.com. And you can go over there. This looks like a normal Google search page, but we have the Google Images icon, and you'll see the little camera search by image icon right here. That's key. Now, one of the first ways, so one of your first of the few options we'll show you today to do this is a drag and drop. So let's say you have an image saved on your desktop. Here it is. I'm just going to drag it right over here into the search bar. It will upload the file, and I get a whole list of hits where that image is in the page. And so I can then go and investigate all of these different sources where that image shows up. One of the second options you can do is to click the little search by image icon, and you can paste a URL in there. And let's say I've found a URL where this image I want to search is, and I can paste it in there and search. Once again, I will get a big list of hits of different sites where this image shows up. Let's talk about a third way that is even a little bit easier to do, and this is probably the simplest way and one that I highly recommend, only if you're using Chrome though. Let's say you're on a web page and you find an image and you want to know more about that image. You can right click or control click on the image and then scroll down here to search Google for image, and automatically a new tab will open up in your Chrome browser giving you the same results. So the last step you want to do, and the most important one, is probably to ask some critical questions about the results that you just found. You want to ask questions like, on what kinds of websites does this image show up? Are there any clues about where the image originated? Has the image been altered in any way, any place that you've seen it? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. For more information about...
Okay, so what is important for us to note is that there are available resources that are for free where you could do a fact check yourself and you could do an image verification. That's very, very important. So you can do that before sharing. Make it a habit, because we are at the forefront of trying to defeat not just the pandemic, but the infodemic of misinformation and disinformation. Okay, so an issue for Filipinos is that we put premium on the information from our elders as a sign of respect. When we say, pag galing sa lolo, sa ate, sa kuya, okay, we read it, we obey because we respect them. This is an issue for us. And I'm not immune to that. Just the other day, I received this message. So it says, mosquitoes are dangerous COVID virus spreader, okay? And then you have immediately a red flag here because it has a call to action. Look and read seriously, okay? So this is a sort of an alarmist tone in terms of the headline. So if you have an alarmist tone on the headline, all you have to do is to check the bottom part once again, and then you have another call to action here. It says the merits of forwarding are infinite. So it's asking you to forward the message. And what is this message telling us? Professor Xi Zhengli, the second coronavirus whistleblower, warns all mankind. The weather is getting hotter, the new coronary pneumonia. Now, that should be a red flag. Why? There is no such thing as coronary pneumonia. What we have would be coronavirus-related pneumonia. When you say coronary, it has something to do with, the example, coronary blood vessels of the heart. Okay, but it's not used to describe pneumonia. So that is in itself, okay, a red flag. So when you have errors such as this in an article that's pretending to be scientifically based, then that should serve as a red flag. Then it says here, now there is more terrible problem. There are only 3 virus research institutes in the world, and Wuhan is one of them. Professor Xi Zhengli, director of Wuhan Virus Research, warned the people across the country this morning that mosquitoes will be the 3rd human virus spreader. Once more than 6 billion people are spread across the world. 2/3 of them will suffer from it. So I personally feel that mosquito bites are more terrible than wearing clothing and masks and other precautions. And mosquito bite people with viruses and then bite healthy people, 1, 2, or even N. These viruses are invisible and intangible. Li Wenliang was the first whistleblower of new coronary pneumonia, but the people did not pay attention to it. Professor Xi Zhengli is the first whistleblower of the mosquito crown virus. Okay, once again, you would notice instead of coronavirus, maybe he made use of Google Translate to translate corona, and that could actually in English word would mean crown, okay? Hoping to be taken seriously by everyone and then take preventive measures. Now I have to improve my awareness of self-prevention. I hope you can use screen doors and screens as soon as possible to prevent mosquitoes from flying into the room and biting the virus. The second whistleblower said that the mosquito is probably the plague coming again. Be careful, bring cool oil when you go out. Okay, be careful of mosquito bites at home. Okay, and then it's asking you to share the message. However, look at this, colleagues. The Centers for Disease Control says at this time, it has no data to suggest that this new coronary virus or other similar coronaviruses, okay, are spread by mosquitoes or ticks. So take note, your coronavirus or other similar coronaviruses are spread by mosquitoes. It has no basis at all. So that information is just plain and simple fake news. There's no data to support that claim, okay? So let's move on now to the 7 elements of good quality information sources and practical strategies for fact checking, okay? So whenever you receive a message, what are the things that you should do? What are the strategies that you should implement? Okay, I'd like to share you this short information video.
Fake news is nothing new, but bogus stories can reach more people more quickly via social media than what good old-fashioned viral emails could accomplish in years past. A lot of these viral claims aren't news at all, but fiction, satire, and efforts to fool readers into thinking they're for real. Here are some strategies to shield yourself from fake news. Are you familiar with the source? Is it legitimate? Has it been reliable in the past? If not, you may not want to trust it. If a provocative headline drew your attention, read a little further before you decide to pass along the shocking information. Even in legitimate news stories, the headline doesn't always tell the whole story. But fake news, particularly efforts to be satirical, can include several revealing signs in the text. One fake story even attributed a quote to a dolphin. If that had been real, you could argue they buried the lead. Another telltale sign of a fake story is often the byline, if there even is one. And in some cases, the authors are not even real. One story was credited to a doctor who won 14 Peabody Awards and a handful of Pulitzer Prizes, which would be very impressive if it wasn't also totally made up. Many times these bogus stories will cite official or official-sounding sources, but once you look into it, the source doesn't back up the claim. Some false stories aren't completely fake, but rather distortions of real events. These mendacious claims can take a legitimate news story and twist what it says, or even claim that something that happened long ago is related to current events. One deceptive website took a story that was over a year old from CNN and slapped on a new, misleading headline and publication date. So on top of the deception, there was copyright infringement. Remember, there is such a thing as satire. Normally it's clearly labeled as such, and sometimes it's even funny. But it isn't the news. And then there's the more debatable forms of satire, designed to pull one over on the reader. These posts are also designed to encourage clicks and generate money for the creator through ad revenue. But they aren't news. We know this is difficult. Confirmation bias leads people to put more stock in information that confirms their beliefs and discount information that doesn't. But the next time you're automatically appalled at some social media post concerning, say, a politician you oppose, take a moment to check it out. Try this simple test. What other stories have been posted to the news website that is the source of the story that just popped up in your social media feed? You may be predisposed to believe a story about a politician you don't like, but if the alleged news site also features a story about Guardians from Antarctica retaliating against America by hitting New Zealand with an earthquake, maybe you should think twice before sharing. And yes, that earthquake story is a real example of a fake story that popped up. We know you're busy, and some of this debunking takes time, but fact checkers get paid to do this kind of work. Between factcheck.org, Snopes.com, the Washington Post Fact Checker, and PolitiFact.com, it's likely at least one has already fact-checked the latest viral claim to pop up in your social media newsfeed. And remember, newsreaders themselves remain the first line of defense against fake news. To see more, go to factcheck.org.
Okay, that's actually a summary of a lot of strategies, okay? So I'd like to share with you this time a quick evaluation strategy, okay? So whenever you receive an article that has an alarmist tone in the headline and you have a call to action at the bottom part telling you and pushing you to share it, please don't until you've done the fact check yourself. So what do? Check the article for CARV, meaning clarity in currency. So is the style of writing coherent? Okay. Is the article current? How recent is it? When was it written? And then try to check for accuracy. Are the facts stated correct? Then check for reliability. So who wrote it? Who published it? Is it coming from a trustworthy source? And finally, check for validity. Is the article factually sound? Okay. Now, these characteristics actually defines the quality of the article. So there are only two things that you need to check, okay? The article and the author. Now, what is usually a common issue? Here's an example. Remember the Baby Kyle Facebook post? Okay. If you're going to read through it, okay, this is what was written last May 16 in that Facebook post, okay, that used Willie Revillame name, okay? Willie Revillame, the popular TV host of a popular game show, okay? So it said, this is baby Kyle. A few weeks ago, he survived an opened heart surgery. So if you're going to take note of that, okay, that's grammatically wrong. It's supposed to be open heart surgery, not opened heart surgery, okay? So sometimes the grammar and the semantics of the story would actually tell you something about the quality of that article. So what are some characteristics of false messages that we should consider as red flag? One, the article will have claims to have gotten the information from an insider of an organization who are usually tasked to identify treatment or organizations who are involved in creating a vaccines. Now, please be wary of those kinds of posts. With no reference to a source, they're not identifying where they got the information. They would just say publish articles or a Nobel Peace Prize winner, okay? So with an alarmist tone. So it's asking you, it's actually trying to trigger you to read the article, and it's very emotionally charged. Remember the first conversation that I shared a while back between the mother and the daughter? It has an alarmist tone. And usually the text is factually discordant with the image, which simply means the image is not related to the text. It could be like what happened to the pictures of baby Kyle. They made use of a picture, a very old picture, of a baby who has undergone open heart surgery in New Zealand and just posted it, trying to recreate the story as something new, okay? You have to be very, very careful of those things. Now, what added to the fire on the post about ibuprofen's effect on COVID-19? Look at this, okay? If we're going to apply the first characteristic that makes an article or a message more likely to be a false message, or the first red flag that you have to note would be with claims to have inside information. Look how that works on this article. I have a doctor in the family who has been given information from Vienna's laboratory studying COVID-19, and vast majority of people who died of it had ibuprofen in their system. Do not take it. Look, this is an alarmist tone, and this is a claim that the information is coming from an insider. Look, as we said a while back, when an article would have phrases that would give you the clue that the claims are coming from insiders of an organization, that should be a red flag. And then, okay, further, the article says, those who recovered did not take ibuprofen, or if you have symptoms, take paracetamol only. Looks like this virus thrives on ibuprofen, so don't do it and tell everyone you can. Again, remember, so you have an alarmist first sentence, alarmist tone, and then you have a call to action. Tell everyone. So whenever you see a call to action like that, that should serve as a red flag for you to first verify the information before sharing it, okay? Now, another quick strategy or quick evaluation strategy, okay? So check the author, okay? So remember the 2 A's of fact checking: the article, check it for CARV, and then the author. What do we need to check on the author? Check on the C, and that's a big one, the credibility. Is the author really commissioned to come up with an article that outlines science and fact-based sources so that the public will get the right information? Or this is where the issue comes in, related to expertise versus experience. In our generation, you can derive a certain degree of authority or credibility when you have gone through a lot of graduate school courses, you have actually worked on your thesis researches so that you create new knowledge that you can impart with others. That's expertise, okay? Experience, on the other hand, is that you get the job, you get exposed to a lot of situations that develop skills. And from your experience, you also generate your own version of knowledge, which you tend to share. And right now, because of social media platforms, okay, that's easy to do. So the question now is, saan tayo maniniwala? Yung nag-aral at sinasabi nating eksperto, or yung may karanasan lang? Okay, let me pose this question. who would you believe? The doctor who is involved in clinical trials, okay, related to finding the cure or treatment for coronavirus or COVID-19, or somebody who had the infection, made use of herbal remedies, and eventually came out of it healthy. And you would say, sino papaniwalaan ko? Diba? Yung bang nagka-COVID na nag-recover at siya ay may ginawang treatment? Okay? Or yung doktor na nag-aral? That's a big question now. So, what is our basis for credibility? What is our basis for authority? Is it the expertise of the individual or the experience? Okay, let me share with you this article. This is what I'm trying to tell you a while back, okay? May 1, 2020. Here's the headline of The Sun, okay? Vegan mom claims she can boost her immune system to beat coronavirus by drinking sperm smoothies. Once again. So they're trying to exploit the findings of a study that says that sperm, okay, contains antibacterial properties. And who can argue with somebody who is doing it? Once again, this is reflective of somebody having the experience. So the health blogger claims drinking a smoothie with a shot of her boyfriend's sperm is helping her beat coronavirus. Once again, so if you have a patient who has had the coronavirus and use this as a treatment and eventually recover, okay, sasabihin mo bang sinungaling siya? Well, right? So we give this like a second look. Okay, and this would definitely affect our own attitude towards verification of the articles that we share. And then they named the patient as Tracy Kiss, 32, reckons ingesting her boyfriend's sperm every day, either directly or as part of a smoothie, will see her through the pandemic. So it's like the person having that experience is recommending what she did to everyone who would want to try it. Okay, and she goes on further by saying, if it isn't for everyone, but it is packed full of vitamins, and I haven't had a cold or flu ever since drinking it in 2017. I also put it on my face to clear up my skin. Can just imagine how this lady would look like at night. Okay, so therefore, we would argue, sino papaniwalaan natin? Yung eksperto na nag-aral or itong naka-experience? Diba? Sabi niya, gumamit siya, uminom siya ng sperm, at least siya nagkaroon ng flu. And it's helping her fight the coronavirus. So, whom are we going to put premium on when we're talking about credibility of the source? Diba? And here she is, okay? She very graciously tried to pose for a picture, and this is what she does. She freezes the sperm in an ice tray to use another day, okay? And then, what is good with that article is that the author is very good at creating balance, because the author of the article about this, okay, also interviewed a doctor who said, okay, there are hundreds of myths out there about how to protect yourself against COVID-19. Most of them are exactly that, myths. The idea of drinking semen doesn't have the slightest nugget of science behind it and is frankly extremely worrying, especially if you are not familiar with the state of health of the source of the semen, okay? Although some studies have shown that for as long as there's no bacteria or virus that's inside the body of the source, it's all right to do that, swallow the sperm, okay? Now, what is good with that article is that after the initial presentation of the facts, okay, the author posted some infographics, okay, and the infographics actually, okay, try to discredit, okay, the claims. And okay, it's also good at having the opportunity to educate the reader. But if you are the reader, which would you read? The article about the effect of the sperm on the protection against the coronavirus, or would you go through the coronavirus facts? Okay, so once again, it all boils down to what we want to see, what we want to read. So if we want to read scientific facts, it's our responsibility. Now, if we want to divert our attention to the entertainment value of our article, it's also our responsibility. Okay, now, Here's an issue. For Filipinos, which do you think they initially consider when evaluating an article? Is it the author or the quality of the article? Here's the answer. Okay. Remember, Filipinos are considered person-oriented and holistic. As they say, we associate a product with the person. So we first buy into the subject or the person before buying into the product. So anong implication nito? Para sa Pilipino, mas pinapahalagan natin kanino galing yung impormasyon. But the problem now is, what do we consider? Is it the expertise or the experience? Is it the expertise or the experience of the information source? Okay, so we try to figure out which do we pay particular attention to. Okay, now look at these colleagues. Mr. Jay Sonsa, well, a veteran broadcast journalist, posted this on his Facebook page. 24 hours lang tumaas ng 83% ang COVID-19 cases sa Metro Manila, says DOH. And he ended the post by a single word, expectedly. And look, it gathered 7,627 shares, and that could still go on and on and on and on, because you have a popular journalist, a broadcast media personality coming up with this post. And you can just imagine, okay, how many people could have read this. And look, the post has an alarmist tone. Okay, and this was proven to be wrong. Why? The rate of increase in the total number of confirmed cases in NCR from May 16 to May 17 is less than 2.2%, far from his claim of 83%. The 83% Sonsa was pertaining to in the May 17 DOH bulletin is not the rate of increase in Metro Manila, but rather the region's share of new confirmed cases, which was 174 with respect to the country's total of 208. So hindi pala 83%. Okay, it's such that Mr. Sonsa could probably have came up with his own interpretation of the data presented by DOH. Now, take note. In a study on COVID-19 misinformation, politicians, celebrities, and other prominent public figures made up just 20% of the claims in the study sample, but accounted for 69% of total social media engagement, which simply means that even if prominent public figures, okay, are just 20%, okay, of those who make claims about what COVID is, its treatment, and other important characteristics of the virus as well as the pandemic, okay, they account for almost 70% of total social media engagement. So what does this tell us? Pag nag-post ang politician, celebrity, and other prominent public figures, okay, they dominate the social media platforms. That's the kind of influence that they exert. So which simply means maraming nakakarinig, maraming nakakabasa, and then eventually, baka maraming maniwala. That's why we have to do our own share of fact-checking ourselves. Okay, look at this, what happened. The Vice President actually came up with a statement. Ngayon kasi parang nangingibaba ulit yung public order and safety na dapat supportive lang siya sa health concern. Sana hindi grabe yung focus sa military, sa kapulisan, kasi ito health concern. So what she was saying is, okay, we focus on the health concern above public order and safety at the moment. But you see how some netizens played up with this. Okay? Ano nilagay niya? Pinalitan, and then they place here. Pwede naman pong mag-basketball pero dapat may social distance sa bawat player kahit mga 3 meters away. And see how they played up with pictures and information. And of course, this is fact-checked by Rappler to be considered as false. Okay? So therefore, it's very, very important, okay, for us to remember it is one's personal responsibility to do a background check on the source. So check the source of the picture, of the article, check the source, who is the author, okay, check the source of the article, was it scientifically proven? Okay, now what are some considerations that we need to focus on? First, a common motivation of fake news proponents, remember this, an attempt at seeking attention. In Tagalog, we say, nagpapapansin. Minsan memo lang. Okay? Nagpapapansin. Minsan memo lang. Okay. Remember the case of the public school teacher who made this threat? I will give 50 million reward kung sino makakapatay kay Duterte. Okay. When he was interviewed why he made this post, and he simply said he wanted more shares of his tweet messages. Okay. And that's what he wanted. Okay. So it's very important that we should be able to identify who are having the social SOCMED. We call them SOCMED histrionics. Who is a histrionic? A person who always wants to be the center of attention of everybody. Okay? They engage in attention-seeking behaviors. They would want to seek attention. They want more views. And we have a lot of this now. So a common culture-related escape strategy of fake news proponents would be to say, a woman told me that a woman told her. If you ask a person, bakit mo pinost yan? Sabi niya, ay sabi sa akin ng isang babae, sinabi din sa kanya. So this is actually passing the buck. So we're very fond of this. A woman told me that a woman told her. Okay? So let's try to apply what we learned. Are you ready, colleagues? Okay. So let's try to figure things out. Okay. Our framework would be based on the infovalence study by Ala Abd al-Raq. Okay. And when you say infovalence study, it's a study that made use of queries from internet search engines, okay, and the author analyzed it, okay? Now, what are the 4 main themes on the top concerns of Twitter during the COVID-19 pandemic? Theme number 1, this is the first thing that you have to develop your ability to fact check, okay? Fact check any article about the virus as well as its sources, okay? Now, characteristics of coronavirus. The virus is bioengineered as a bioterrorism weapon. Is this true or false? Now, I tell you what's the origin of this information. There was actually an article, okay, or a post on Twitter, and Tasuku Honjo, the 2018 Nobel Prize winner in physiology, who's a Japanese, okay, was actually impersonated. They created a Twitter account, and then there was a message that went viral that says that the coronavirus was actually man-made. It's bioengineered as a bioterrorism weapon. Once again, they tried to capitalize on the author, the source. However, okay, Mr. Honjo actually came out and said that he is not the owner of that Twitter account that made the post. So this is considered false, okay? Although a lot of people are being made to believe that this is a form of bioterrorism. Now, what is bioterrorism? The use of bacteria or viruses as a form of weapon against a race or against another country, okay? So sometimes even Botox could actually be turned into a bioterrorism weapon. Okay, even the smallpox virus could be turned into bioterrorism weapon. Okay, so if you see a resurgence of the viruses that were once already believed to be eliminated, then it could be that they have recreated the virus as a bioterrorism weapon. But the coronavirus, according to, okay, the World Health Organization, okay, on April 21 said, all available evidence suggests that the coronavirus originated in animals, actually from bats, in China last year, and was not manipulated or made in a laboratory. So that disproves the claim that the coronavirus is actually bioengineered. Now, another claim on the characteristics of coronavirus, it is mainly spread through air. Now, this is a point of contention now because there are 239 scientists who are convincing the World Health Organization, telling them that, hey, you better take a look at this because some studies have shown that there could be potential, probable airborne transmission of COVID. And in that case, what is the implication? So for us healthcare workers, if actually COVID is proven to be airborne, then we would need to wear N95 masks all the time we're inside the hospital. okay? And that would need additional filters, ensuring that the ventilation and air exchange within OR and some other special units, okay, could be more stringent, okay? However, okay, in the June 29 advisory of the World Health Organization, they have identified that airborne transmission is possible only in enclosed spaces. So to say that coronavirus is mainly spread through air, this is actually false. Okay, it is false. Okay, so the Centers for Disease Control says the primary and most important mode of transmission of COVID-19 is through close contact from person to person, mainly through respiratory droplets. It may be possible to get the virus by touching a surface or object that has the virus on it. Okay, and the virus could thrive for several hours on top of a specific surface. Okay, now pay particular attention. In a recent study published in the National Academy of Sciences, it has been found that 1 minute of loud talking can generate over 1,000 potentially coronavirus containing droplets that remain airborne for 8 to 14 minutes. This is the reason why when you're talking inside the OR, it's very important that you have to wear a mask and even a face shield. Okay, because 1 minute of loud talking without the mask could actually generate over 1,000 droplets that contains the virus. You can just imagine, and then that could remain airborne for 8 to 14 minutes. This is the reason why, okay, gathering or mass gathering of people is not yet being permitted. This is the reason why classes that are face-to-face are not being permitted, because you can just imagine if the teacher talks for 10 minutes loudly, so 1,000 times 10 minutes, that's 10,000 droplet containing the virus, possibly containing the virus. And if you have 10 people doing that, so that's actually 100,000 droplets, okay? Just 10 people inside the classroom. If you have 50 people inside the classroom, oh my God, you can just imagine the concentration now of the virus. And that remains airborne for 8 to 14 minutes. So kind of scary. So what's the implication? We tell our friends, okay? We say, don't talk to me pag wala kang mask, ha? Ito, sa pag sinabi niya, ito naman, sandali lang, 1 minute, yun na nga eh. 1 minute of loud talking, you have 1,000 droplets that potentially contains the coronavirus, okay? And it remains for 8 to 14 minutes. That's the reason why social distancing should be maintained, okay? Minimum distance between two persons should be 3 feet, but you have less exposure if you have 6 feet space in between you, okay? So next characteristic of coronavirus, let's try to identify whether this is true or false. The use of mask alone can prevent its transmission. So a lot of people would say, naka-mask naman ako eh. I'm wearing a mask anyway, okay? Now, is this true or false? Pay particular attention. The use of mask alone, actually, this is a false claim. Why? Okay, why is this considered false? Okay, a research study found that subjects touch their faces, even if they're wearing a mask, 23 times per hour. Okay, the mouth and the nose are the most frequently touched part of the face that are with mucous membranes. That's why some people created a meme that says avoid men, M, mouth, eyes, and nose, because the mucous membranes could be entry points of the virus. Okay, so even if you're wearing mask, if you keep on touching your nose, your mouth, and your eyes, okay, and on an average, a study said, you touch your face consciously or unconsciously 23 times an hour. If you're wearing the mask and if you are on an 8-hour duty in the hospital, you can just imagine how many times have you touched your face, consciously or subconsciously. So let's summarize what we learned, okay? What are the useful facts that we can use to educate people? First, we have to know what are the differences between a bacteria and a virus, because people would usually say, hey, may coronavirus, uminom ka na antibiotic, AAA. Antibiotics are treatment for a bacterial infection. We take antiviral agents for viral infections, okay? So, in a nutshell, a bacterium can be a single or complex cells, while a virus is considered as smaller, and they're not considered cells. Another difference. Your bacterium can survive on its own, whether they are inside the body or outside the body. And take note, not all bacterium are harmful. Remember your Lactobacillus shirota strain, okay? They aid in digestion, okay? So some of these bacteria, okay, are sensitive to specific antibiotics, okay? So bacterial infection are usually treated with antibiotics. Now, for the virus, it cannot survive on its own. So it simply means if the virus does not reach your body, so it has no way of surviving on its own. That's why we need social distancing and wearing of personal protective equipment. Now take note, not all viruses are considered as harmful. Okay, now what are the viruses that are considered as healthy viruses? Now, they are called bacteriophages, okay? Literally, bacteriophages are bacteria eaters, okay? These are viruses that are found in the GIT, specifically the mucous linings of the GIT, that eats the bacteria and then destroys it, okay? So not all viruses are considered harmful. However, the coronavirus is definitely harmful, okay? That's why your viruses, okay, are treated with antiviral agents to differentiate it with your bacteria that are treated with antibiotics. Now let's move on. What are some helpful facts on COVID-19 and the coronavirus? First, we have to know about the mode of transmission. It's transmitted droplets. The young, the old, the immunocompromised, and those with underlying medical conditions are more at risk for developing fatal complications. Now, some of our friends in the United States are telling me that the virus is not yet fully understood. And these are some of the opinions of the experts that shared with them some of their findings, that it would definitely take them an average of 3 to 5 years to fully understand the virus, because some of those who had COVID eventually had thrombosis. Some of them had Guillain-Barré syndrome. Some of them have facial paralysis. Some of them develop clots in the brain, okay? Some of them develops clots in the blood vessels. And that's actually the reason why some people believe that aspirin could be used to treat COVID, because it has an anticoagulant property. But that has yet to be proven that we could indeed use aspirin to treat COVID, okay? Now, what is actually the theme number 2 for the top concerns of tweeters? The impact of the virus on people as well as countries. Wow, this is actually a big issue now. Primarily the economic impact, okay? And to share with you some good news and not so good news, okay, from different parts of the world. Okay, I've been in contact with some students of mine who are teaching in universities and colleges of nursing in different parts of the world, who are now being sent back home because the government subsidy for the universities they work for have now been cut. And one of them actually posted a message that says there are about 300 of them coming from several countries that are going home. And they used to teach nursing in colleges and universities. And then I've been talking to a friend who is also an administrator of a hospital in the United States, and I'm asking them if nurses are immune from being laid off during this time of the pandemic. And she actually answered in the negative, which simply means, sabi niya, Ray, as an administrator, I feel it's painful for me to let go some of my nurses, but it's putting a toll on the capability of the healthcare organization, okay, to manage the finances related to the need to ensure the medical insurance of the workers. So which simply means the pandemic is putting a toll on the ability of healthcare institutions to provide full healthcare benefits to frontliners like us nurses. So ibig sabihin, sir, may natatanggal sa Amerika na mga nurses? Yes. Nagbabawas din ng tao ang healthcare institutions because they're trying to balance their finances because they don't have an idea when will this end. So I'm not trying to sound alarm. I'm just trying to share information coming from my friends to whom I've gathered these developments. Okay, so the pandemic has affected all of us. So the impact on the people as well as the countries really is so great. Okay, so can we therefore, sir, in terms of the economy, can we therefore consider the pandemic as an opportunity? If there's something positive that you can get from it, it's an opportunity where everybody gets equal chances again. But the question is, when will the recovery start? This is unlike the 1997-1998 Asian financial crisis that was triggered by Thailand. Okay, it's one country, it's regional. You fix the region, you fix the economy eventually. This is unlike the 2008-2009 housing crisis that triggered the economic downturn in the United States in 2008 and 2009. Why? That's also sectoral. You fix the problem in the housing sector, and then you eventually recover from the financial quagmire. However, the pandemic has affected most of the countries in the world. It has affected all people from all walks of life, regardless of color, religion, regardless of age groups, and some are more at risk, the very young and the very old. Okay, so therefore, let's try to figure if this is true or false. COVID-19 will just come and go just like SARS. Well, that's what the President of the United States have been trying to tell Americans, okay, just to prop up their confidence. But this is actually false. Why? If we're going to compare the three, you have your SARS, your severe acute respiratory syndrome, your MERS-CoV, your Middle East respiratory syndrome, coronavirus, and your COVID, coronavirus disease 19. Okay, all of these three, okay, are actually transmitted by bats. But of course, there have been literatures that have identified that SARS, okay, could also be transmitted by cats. Okay, your MERS-CoV could also be transmitted aside from bats by camels as well as humans. Okay, and all of this could actually infect humans. Okay, your SARS affected 29 countries, MERS-CoV affected 27 countries, and look how much damage has COVID caused the world over. It has affected 213 countries and territories. Okay, case fatality rate of SARS 9.6, case fatality rate of MERS-CoV 34.4, case fatality rate of COVID-19 is 6.5. Okay, in the Philippines it's 4.4, so we're better off than the global statistics. However, why are we having difficulty dealing with COVID? Because the virus is not as well understood as SARS and MERS. Okay, so it is yet to be fully understood. As my friends in the States are telling me, Ray, from the advisory here, it would take the experts 3 to 5 years to fully understand why some patients with COVID have developed symptoms like Guillain-Barré. They have developed symptoms of dementia. They have developed symptoms of thrombosis. They have developed symptoms of DVT. Some of them have bleeding, okay? So it's not well understood. That's why the key is for all of us to fight fake news. We need to tell everybody what we know. We don't have to be experts. We just have to tell everyone that they need to validate the kind of information that they're getting. And that's what's important. So the next thing, a negative antibody test means I can't get COVID-19. Okay, this is one thing I'd like to share to everybody. I had my rapid test like 2 weeks ago because we went back to the province, and lo and behold, it was an ordeal going back to the province to check on some of the people we have there, because okay, you'll have to get your barangay certificate, you have to get your police clearance, you have to go to the municipal health office, and eventually get a travel pass, and from there you have to go to triage. It takes the whole new 1 day for you to get through the area. Okay, the checkpoints, you get through several checkpoints, around 3 to 4 checkpoints, until you are allowed to return back to your area. So what does a negative antibody test mean? Okay, does it mean that you would no longer get COVID-19? No. So this information therefore is false. Okay, let us clarify that situation. By differentiating your viral or the antigen or PCR testing and your antibody testing or the rapid testing. Now take note, your rapid testing is actually based on the presence of two antibodies. You have your immunoglobulin M and immunoglobulin G, okay? Both of these immunoglobulins are found in blood. That's why for antibody testing or rapid testing, they will need to extract blood, okay? Now, it is believed that your IgM is the first antibody that would increase whenever there's an infection in the body. And IgG, even if it's the most common immunoglobulin that protects us from both bacterial and viral infection, takes time to form. But, okay, according to the Centers for Disease Control, specifically for coronavirus, okay, it would usually take 2 to 3 weeks for the antibody, both IgM and IgG, to increase almost simultaneously, meaning to say almost one after the other. So after IgM increases, chances are IgG also increases. Now the question is, how long after infection will these immune globulins remain increased? Okay, the CDC says it's unknown.